My name is Frank Turner. I'm a singer and a songwriter and a touring performer from Essex in the UK. And I am talking about my 10th album, which is a silly number of albums, but my 10th album, which is called Undefeated, which is a punk rock record, which is coming out on the 3rd of May. He said getting the date right, on the 3rd of May, 2024. And I'm very excited about it.
Beautiful, Frank. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. As you say, bro, you've recently announced your 10th solo studio album, Undefeated, will be released on May the 3rd. So how are you feeling about it, mate? Like, you still get excited or anxious or nervous about new albums?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think, there's a funny inbuilt thing in the way that my job, that's the wrong word, but the way that what I do kind of works is that, I'll spend 2 years writing, rehearsing, arranging, recording, mixing an album that comes in at 44 minutes, and then other people listen to it in 44 minutes. and sometimes people go, that's right. And it's just like, but that's 2 years of my life. But I'm it's the 10th time around, so I'm used to that on some levels. But yeah, of course, I'm still nervous. I mean, I'm also, I'm pretty confident about this record. I think it's a banger, should we say? Yeah. It's I sort of feel like on my last album, FTHC, I kind of got my mojo back a bit and sort of hit my stride again. And I feel with this record, so on the other side of the pandemic, with I've got my new drummer in my band. It's first time recording with him. And it's first time producing myself. First time on the other side of being part of the Universal label world kind of thing. Just the whole thing sort of feels like a bit of a reset, and it's really nice. And yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, cool. So what's this period like for you, mate? Like, the album's done, you just sit and wait for it to come out. Like, do you go back over it and wonder what you could have done differently, or do you put it to bed?
I try not to do that, if I'm honest with you. I mean, it's a funny thing because by the time you kind of finish the mastering process of a record, particularly if you're producing it yourself, which I was in this instance, I've already listened to it like 900 million times. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you've sort of, there is a degree to which you finish the mastering and then you sort of play it in your car and you drive home, and then you kind of park it for about a decade before you listen to it again. I mean, that's not quite true, but I've been immersed in this music for a very long time, and it's quite frustrating to have to wait, and it's to do with promotion, it's to do with vinyl pressing times. Lovely punk rock. But we want to present it to the world in the best possible way. So there is a bit of a wait, and I am sort of used to this now, but I'm trying not to second guess it. Do you know what I mean? There is always a bit whenever, apart from, I guess, from your first album, which you tend to sort of record songs you've been touring, there's always a bit about a month after a record comes out when you're playing a new song live, and then there's just a little either rhythmical or lyrical thing that just clicks a little bit, and you go, oh yeah. It should have gone like that in the album. And it happens every single time, and there's not really anything anyone can do about it.
Yeah, sweet. Now, to date, you've released the singles No Thank You for the Music and Do One. So
yes,
are they a good sonic representation of what to expect from the album?
Mostly yes. I mean, I will say that the record has a fair amount of light and shade, and we've sort of started off with the kind of in-your-face punk rock slaps, if you know what I mean, of which there are quite a few more. But I guess there are some slightly kind of more introspective songs lyrically, and there are some there's an acoustic song on the record, there's a kind of country song on the record, so there is some kind of breadth, shall we say. But like, if you're going to kick off a campaign, you want to kind of get people's attention, you want to smack them in the face a bit. So these are the more, they're not the most aggressive songs on the record, but they're at the more aggressive end of the spectrum.
Right. Now, you sort of touched on this a little bit before, but the press release says that the album is a result of your decision to step away from the major label world and to re-embrace the liberation of working as an independent artist. Like, how's that impacted that?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say is that, like, I've been sort of trying to find the right vocabulary to talk about this, and I appreciate that a lot of people don't care, and that's totally fine. Like, I'm sort of at pains to say that, I licensed to the major label world for 5 records. I completed my deal. I didn't get dropped. I didn't break up. However that would be possible as a solo artist. And they offered me more, and I said no, and took the decision that I wanted to kind of go back to being a fully indie artist. I guess the thing about that is like I don't feel like my creative decisions were compromised in the last 5 records, but I sometimes had to fight quite hard to keep my creative vision pure, sacrosanct, however you want to put it. And now, now I'm completely the master of my own ship. I mean, as I said before, I produced this record myself, which I've never done before. And, I just sort of feel like it's an exciting time. It feels much in control for me. I feel like it's a bit of a homecoming thing because it feels like a bit like going back to some of my earlier records, kind of logistically or whatever. I mean, I guess you could probably say that, I'm in one of those sort of slightly manic episodes where it's like either it's complete genius or it's complete bullshit, and it's my fault either way because there's now no one else to blame. But no, I feel confident about it, and it feels good. It feels like the right place to be.
Yeah. Now, the press release also says that musically the album switches from Black Flag to Counting Crows, the Descendants to the Pogues by Elvis Costello and Billy Bragg. Like, that's a pretty massive assortment of influences there, mate. How'd you get all that in there?
Well, I mean, first thing I should say is I don't write the press releases myself. But I mean, I'll own it. Do you know what I mean? That sounds cool. That sounds like a record that I'd listen to.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I mean, 10 records in, there are specific influences that play into any new record that I make. But on some level, it's quite nice that I remember on early records sort of feeling like, right, I'm trying to kind of drive this record into this record, or my influences were much more specific and kind of surface level in terms of the way that I thought about my music. I've been playing and writing music for long enough now and listening to music for long enough now that, like, broadly speaking, my influences are kind of like amalgamated at this point. Do you know what I mean? They're in there, they're in the mix, they've been digested. And that's not to say, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of things that you can cite as influences for what I do, of course. But like, I don't think about that all that consciously when I'm making music now. I just kind of write music how I want to write it. And that's a really fun thing. Like I say, there are kind of specific things. Like I was thinking about the Wild Hearts. I don't know if the Wild Hearts are a thing in Australia. But I was thinking, yeah, incredible. They're one of my favorite bands. I was thinking about them a fair bit. I was thinking about Elvis Costello a fair bit on this record. I was thinking a bit about kind of mid-period Nick Cave, the kind of rock and roll-y kind of Abattoir Blues kind of era. But these were kind of faint ideas floating around. More broadly, it was just a question of like, cool, let's make some songs. And, Everything Sucks by Descendants is the greatest punk record ever made. And I will fight people on that statement. And that haunts my musicality and always will. But like, I don't necessarily think about Everything Sucks all day, every day.
True, right? Yeah. So whichever way you want to put it, though, bro, like that there's a lot of influence and a lot of spectrum over the album. So was there ever a consideration that it might be too much in there? It might be too hard to sort of believe it?
No, not really. And this is one of the nice things is that I feel like, a few records ago, I had, well, in fact, actually on FTHC, there's the first song on FTHC is called Non Serviam, and it's a kind of full, fat, hardcore punk song. And when I was writing that, I sort of had a moment of thinking, oh, well, this should be for a side project because it's too obviously different from the kind of main body of what I do. And then it was suddenly just like, well, who cares? And who's going to tell me no, to be blunt? And like, and it's like, my name is my name, and I wrote it, so it can go on an album with my name on the front cover. And like, I do, at the same time as saying all this, one of the things as I get older, I sort of feel a bit more comfortable being a specialist, I want to say. Like, I mean, just as in the sense that it's like, I'm no longer sitting here thinking, maybe I'll do a drum and bass record next, because it's like, that would be terrible. And nobody wants that. And it wouldn't be very good. And I like some drum and bass. I don't really know how to do it properly. And it's like, I know what I'm good at, and I'm going to focus on that. And hopefully, as you're saying, that's quite a broad spectrum of things, of influences. But like, I feel sort of pretty confident and comfortable in where I sit. And part of that confidence and comfort involves knowing where I don't sit. You know what I mean? So like, I can't rap, and I'm never going to try. So, you know what I mean? Like, and the world should be grateful for this.
Now, Undefeated follows on from your first UK #1 album with FTHC, mate. So And was it tempting in a way to sort of rehash that winning formula and do it again because you know it works?
I mean, kind of, but so many times through my career, things have happened for me later than you might expect. I mean, my kind of breakthrough record was my fourth album, you know what I mean? And like, I got to the point of playing arenas in my home country on album 5. And you know, and I got my first number 1 on album 9, and it's like all of these things are great, but it's like by time if they happen that I know people who all those things happened to on their first album. Do you know what I mean? When they were 23 or something. And actually, I'm not going to name names, but these dear friends of mine. But that's hard. That's really tough to go from sort of 0 to 60 that fast. If you get to a number 1 album on album 9, by that point you're slightly kind of inured to the process. You're slightly aware that it's a bit of a game, to be honest. I'm still proud of it, my God. And actually, funnily enough, we were sort of hoping to get another one this time around, but bloody Taylor Swift's just gone and announced an album like the week before mine. So that's probably that forever. But that's fine. I love Taylor Swift. She's great. But so, you know, I don't think it went to my head particularly. I was proud of it. It was something that we worked on and it felt really good. The other thing I would say is that like my major focus actually for this album is kind of outside the UK. The UK is fine. Do you know what I mean? That's where I'm from. Last album was number 1. That's all cooking with gas. I really want to spend a bit more time and effort kind of promoting this record, touring this record in other parts of the world. Australia being a good example, he said, currying favour. But although I did come through twice last year, and maybe again this year, but I can't announce that yet. Anyway, moving on. But so you know, do you see what I mean? Like, the UK is going to be all right. I don't need to spend as much time and effort promoting the UK. I want to go first of all to places like Europe and Canada and America and Australia that I've been before. But I'm also like having conversations about going to South America for the first time and touring in Southeast Asia and all this kind of thing. So you know, fingers crossed, it's going to be a more international campaign, which I'm excited about.
Beautiful. All right, Frank, well, we'll let you go there, mate. So you've got like a minute to yourself before your next interview. But
that's very generous of you, man.
Undefeated is out on May the 3rd, and from what I've heard of it, she's a bloody good record, mate. So I'm looking forward to wrapping my ears around the whole thing.
Thank you so much, man. And hopefully we'll chat again next time we've got some dates.
Well, sure, mate. We'll catch up and have a beer when you come out here.
All right, man. Yeah, definitely. Take care.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, that was great.
One down.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
One down. This one's
You're going to hear
longer.
me say the same shit again in a minute.
Well, this next one's a cool one. So this one's going to be a little bit longer, but
Okay.
David James Young, he's a great like really well-known journalist here in Australia. And he's doing a piece where he wants to talk about the opening track from each of your albums.
Oh yes, I did.
And kind of do a bit of a deep dive. I thought you might be kind of
yeah. This is great. We'll be I mean, the thing about it, this is going to work because I think about this shit endlessly. So
yeah. I thought you would. Yeah, all musicians, you know, like to get into the nitty gritty stuff like this. So this is awesome. Yeah. I'll let him in a second. I'm just going to stop